see what works. There you go.
Hi.
All right, guys. So it looks like this is the best way. Yeah.
We had it horizontal. We're like, I don't think it's gonna work. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. How are you guys?
Good. Doing very well.
Yeah. I mean, like, you're in person, and that's like a big deal right now, you know?
Yes.
I know.
Wait, where's your mask?
That's true. Where's yours?
This is my home.
That is awesome. Monica, it's so nice to meet you. I'm
nice
so
to
excited.
meet you as well. I've heard so many good things about you.
I know. Like, Adam talks about you all the time, and I'm like, I need to meet this woman. Like,
you do.
So exciting.
You're both boss women, I have to say.
Aww,
yeah, I know, right? Like, thanks, man. That's awesome. So for those of you guys who are watching live, and I'll probably say this again as we get more people, but if you're watching live, this isn't just a conversation between me and them. It is also a conversation between you and us. So if you have questions, if you have thoughts, you hear something that they say and you're like, what is that about? Feel free to talk back to us. You can leave a comment in the comment section, or you can leave, ask a question in the question box. I also want to try out something, you guys. I'm going to try out something that I did earlier. Oh, yes! This is awesome. Okay. So I'm putting this is the first thing. And then what apparently you do is you tap it and then you pin it. And then as people come on, they'll see your stuff. I know. I looked this up this morning because
Instagram live genius right now.
This is how it's done.
This is how it's done, right? Exactly. So hopefully,
world.
as more people come on, they will see that. All right. So I want to start. I have like a list of questions. Also, if you watch my lives in any way, shape, or form, you always know that I am writing down notes as you guys talk. So if you don't see me looking at you, that's why. All right. So I know Adam, but nobody else knows Adam that watches this. So
not yet.
Not yet. They're about to, though. So
Right.
I'd love to ask both of you guys sort of to tell me about your backgrounds as far as like, how did you get into this industry? Did you start with one thing and then move to another thing? Like, kind of tell me all about it. Adam, we'll start with you, only because Ball State represent. Adam and I went to college together.
Chirp, chirp.
Chirp, chirp.
Well, as you know, we met at Ball State, so I started in this industry pursuing a career in musical theater, which has been a long time love and has always been my first passion, is the live interactive experience of performing with theater. And so then I basically started performing in regional theaters after I graduated. I did a children's national tour that I used to save up money, and I moved to New York City. And then I booked a second tour, which gave me my equity card, and I just was pursuing the Broadway dream. And I ended up writing my own one-man show, kind of like a La La Land, and I performed that over 3 off-Broadway venues that I did over 5 years. And so I kind of got into the writing side of what I did. And at that point, I kind of had seen a lot of great MFA programs that were represented, and I thought, well, maybe I want to go back to school to kind of explore this other side of acting, which is the film work that I never really got a chance to do. And in that journey, I kind of made the realization I wanted to move to LA, and I applied and got to this incredible program at UCLA, which is actually where I met Monica. And it was an acting for camera course, and that kind of led us into getting a chance to create our own story, like write our own opportunities. That was kind of the recurring motif. And so I started writing this dramedy pilot that we decided we should make, and that's kind of what made us start a company together. And I have just been writing ever since and producing, and we, with our company we started, and now we've had the film festival we've added to this component, and we're celebrating year 4. So that's kind of where I've gotten into this. Insane. And I came to LA, I think like 6 months after you, I think. We came
around the same time. So look at us killing the game. I mean, come on now, right? That's awesome. Monica, so I don't know you at all, so I'm so excited to get to like hear your background and like how you got into everything.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having us. I'm excited to be here.
Yes.
Yeah, so I grew up in San Diego, California, and I went to a performing arts school called San Diego School of Career and Performing Arts from 4th grade to 12th grade. And then through that school, I knew that singing, dancing, and acting were completely my passions. And so I decided to pursue that in college and went to UCLA for musical theater.
See, this is why we're all going to get along, because we're all musical theater people.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's exactly right.
We should do a trio. We should sing.
Right.
Yeah. Oh my God, that'd be so fun.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I started working professionally right after I graduated, became equity in SAG right away. Went to New York for a few years, and auditioned for Broadway and had callbacks and worked for regional theaters all across the country and did various cruise ships. So I've done 4 cruise lines.
I also did a cruise ship. I didn't do a big one. I did like a local one where I at least got to like, you know, be at home or whatever, but it was 3 years full time. Yeah. Like, you know, doing show after show, shift after shift. So I hear you.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. And the most recent one, I just came back from the most recent one. Oh my gosh, May.
Oh my God.
Yeah, insane. And it was
wait.
Yes.
Including being stuck on the ship.
There's a big story behind that. Yes.
Whoa. Yes, we're going to circle back to that if we have time.
Okay, absolutely.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, and in 2016, took a program at UCLA, professional on-camera acting, and that's where I met Adam, and we started writing a pilot and started working and producing and started our company, and the rest is history.
That's amazing. Yay! Okay, so you guys formed together Chrysalis Pictures, right?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us about Chrysalis, because that's kind of like I feel like when I was doing the research, sort of like the umbrella
Exactly.
what kind of holds everything else that you guys are doing. So talk about Chrysalis.
Yes.
And then we're going to talk about because I started as an actor. I've been working professionally since I was about 18. And for a while I had like a theater company. And then when I moved here, I started doing stuff, and I have learned so much as far as like as an actor, but like seeing the other side of it. And I'm curious to see if your experiences have been similar to mine. But tell us about Chrysalis Pictures and sort of your kind of mission there, because I think your mission for all the stuff you guys do is such a unique take on it and so important. Yeah. And I wish more people kind of came at the work in the same way that you guys are. So tell us all about it.
Sure. So one of the other things that I didn't include in my introduction is that I have a Master's of Science in Nonprofit Management and Leadership from Walden University.
Ooh, girl! Ooh, that's awesome.
So, listen.
Boss.
I believe in liberal arts education, and I definitely believe, like, I knew I always wanted to pursue a career in acting, but I also know that you need to be a smart actor, you know, and you need to be able to create for yourself. Because not everyone's just going to be standing there handing you jobs, you know.
Yeah. In fact, almost nobody is. Almost nobody is.
Right.
Like there's so many jobs, and there's so much opportunity, especially in the, you know, film and television, because there's so many productions and stuff. At least before COVID. But even with all those things, there's still only a couple thousand jobs available at any one time. Right. So yes, I'm a huge fan of that. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. So No, please. And I'm just so grateful for having that foundation. So we actually started Chrysalis Pictures as a nonprofit organization. So it is a 501c3. We definitely are focused on a mission and everything that's underneath the umbrella of Chrysalis. And I love that you received it as an umbrella, because that means our marketing's working.
Yes.
So everything under that umbrella serves that we want to see inclusion in media, inclusion, diversity. We want to help
the underrepresented voice.
Absolutely. And we want to help people create their own content and know that as an actor, you have a voice and you have all of the tools you need to be like creating your own work and collaborating and taking your career into your own hands. So, yeah.
And just a little bit more about like the name and how it all came together.
Yeah, so I'm like, that's such a cool name.
It was the 2 of us, and we actually had 3 other women that were part of the producers of Dirty Laundry that helped become the founder of the company. And we were realizing that, you know, that not all art is, you know, art reflects life, but not all life is beautiful. And there's so much that you can create from taking experiences that are not necessarily the best experiences in life or the most, you know, easy things to go through, and you make incredible stories that you can reflect into life. And so I think it was one of our founders, Sam, had come up with the idea that when a butterfly, so when a monarch caterpillar goes through the transformation to become a butterfly, the part of the transformation, the metamorphosis inside the chrysalis, they're like, if you actually heard the sound waves, they're going through this excruciating agony But what we see is this gorgeous transformation afterwards, and it takes flight, and we're just thinking it's just this amazing miracle.
Like don't butterflies when they're creating, they like when they're in their cocoon, the cocoon is called a chrysalis. Is that what it is?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, see, I didn't know that. That's cool. That's really cool. But like, isn't what happens to them? They turn into a goo, right? Like they get sort of absorbed and destroyed, and then they turn into this beautiful thing.
Yes.
Exactly. And so like that process of the transformation, all the work, all the hard work, and all the change is done inside that little like cocoon, which is like this little think tank. And if you've ever worked on a film or a story, think about how much blood, sweat, and tears it takes to get to that point of post.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like that's kind of where the idea of Chrysalis came to be, because we wanted to create beautiful stories and have them come to life. And we kind of use the metamorphosis metaphor as the stage of working with us, where we have the egg phase, and then there's the caterpillar phase, and then the chrysalis is where we all kind of weigh in our thoughts, and then the project takes flight and post with a beautiful story to reflect after all that hard work. So that's kind of where the name came from, just kind of give a little backstory about that.
That's so cool. So, I mean, it's just built into the DNA of your company that
Yes.
you favor stories that are transformative, it sounds like, right? Like you're going from something like it's by watching them or by creating them, you as an artist are transformed and the audience is also transformed.
Yes.
Sounds
Yes.
like.
Absolutely.
See,
What a beautiful way to say it.
You should work in PR, because you seem to rephrase what we're saying in such a better way.
Yeah.
A lot of work. Also, I study copywriting, so there you go.
Yes.
That is so cool. So you guys make your own, you guys make your own content,
Yes.
and then what gave you like? Because I just watching you guys go through what you go through. Like, what made you want to start a film festival? Because that is so much work. I mean, so much work. And it's like, outside of you pursuing your acting and performing careers, and then you've got your company that you're making stuff, and then you want to add on a film festival. That's incredible. Like, the guts and determination and grit it takes to even do any of those things is formidable. And then you guys want to do that. So tell me about how you started that, why you started it. And I'm also curious about its name, because it's called the Moving Parts Film Festival. And I'm like, what is that about? So tell me all about it.
Great. Okay. So it actually started out as a project. So we decided that we were going to bring 25 artists together. This is in our first year. 25 artists together who were first-time filmmakers. And we put them in groups. So we led like a one-day workshop. And we gave them the ideas, the topics of LGBTQ, women's rights, prison reform, and immigration.
Wow.
And they went out and wrote their own stories. They produced it. They worked together in this team over a weekend and created 4 original short films.
So it's kind of like your own little mini 48-hour film festival.
Exactly.
100%. Although it took over about 7 weeks, and we supported them as producers to help educate them across every step of the way. So if they didn't necessarily have the resources, we were on set. I mean, she was definitely on set of all 4 films.
All 4 films.
I was there, I think, at 3 of them. But we definitely were there to help educate them to say that you can make your own content. And we also added choice words they had to work into the script. I mean, we made it really fun.
Yeah.
And so the first year was showcasing those 4 original films, and they got to have a step and repeat and have this great festival. And then
we decided that we wanted to grow it. So
you're like, this is kind of fun.
Yeah. One of our mentors advised that it's like, that's really great that you started this. Now you have to grow it. And that was kind of the piece of advice that gave us the fire to say, okay, let's do that. So year 2, we pretty much opened it up to international submissions, and we had feature films, web series, screenplays, documentaries, and short films.
And we went from 4 films to having over 560 submissions, taking about 10% of them. So we showed 56 films in 2 days in Hollywood.
And organizing and programming everything that falls into suit with panels, Q&As, doing we had 3 full days, because we had a whole gala the night before the festival in 2 days. We actually had 2 different theaters that were running programming simultaneously.
Yeah.
And so that was...
And panels and
it was
incredibly
rewarding. And it was amazing. And I think the best experience was getting to meet the filmmakers after getting to have seen their incredible work and to honor them and get to have conversations about what inspired the work behind them. And to kind of, and I have to say, like, it was a masterclass in cinema, because seeing films submitted from Afghanistan about what it's like to be a woman, or, you know, like Iran, we had films from all over the world.
I literally was just going to say that, because that's the thing too, is that we're content creators. So as festival curators, we're getting to see the very best in independent film, what works, what does not work. And so our education level just soared, like skyrocketed in our confidence, everything that, you know, like now we know what to do from our end. You know what I mean?
Yes, and we're going to share
what to
that.
do and also what not
to do. Right?
I think, because I honestly think, you know, it's really, there's a lot of lessons you can learn on being on the other side of the table. I think you've learned this from your own company, of getting to be on the other side of the camera and just like become a little bit more magnanimous and more informed about how to be a supportive artist that's supporting someone else in their vision, and being sensitive to the personalities and how much it matters to them. And I think that it was definitely the most rewarding thing that we did to have the in-person events. But then, because we still are actors, it had to evolve, just like our company supports evolution and transformation. We decided to jump into the online game in year 3.
Which actually ended up being a blessing, because we were not foreseeing COVID-19 happening.
Right.
But it kind of worked out that we were already doing an online version. Yeah. And so now it's just continuing to grow in this different way. So I have to be honest and say that in the last 4 years, we have changed, and we have not one festival has been exactly the same. So I think we're still trying to find our groove as to how we flow as a festival. I think it's still growing. We're still learning.
And I feel like that's very par for the course in just watching other festivals grow and stuff too. Like, and also it's okay. Like, you don't have to be perfect right out of the gate. And I think that is one of the biggest lessons as a content creator for people who are watching or listening to this later, where they just, you know, I wrote down, because what you said, Adam, where you guys got encouraged to grow after the first year. And I wrote down, sometimes all you need is the encouragement of somebody saying, yeah, do it. So for those of you guys who are watching later or right now, here's your encouragement. Go and do it. Like, you've got the 3 of us telling you, go and do it. If you're looking for a sign, go do it.
Yeah.
Because you will not, like, you, there's no such thing as perfect. And there's also, I don't know if you guys know that phrase, like, no plan survives first contact with the enemy, right? Like, you might have a plan and you think it's going to go great, and then you start doing it and you're like, oh my God, everything is different. All this stuff has changed. And that's okay. That's where you learn. And it sounds like that's what you guys are still doing, which is amazing. That's so cool. By the way, I want to say a special shout out to Stephania. She was on
Stephania.
She's a TikTok star, and by star I mean star. Like, now she's got almost 400,000 followers on TikTok. She's amazing. You guys should know her.
TikTok.
I know, right? She is amazing. She's amazing. Hi, Stephania. But anyway, so you're still growing. You're still learning. You transitioned last year to more of an online format, and now it's all online. So let's talk about what that was like. And I know that, Adam, you mentioned a while ago that you guys have a new partnership with somebody. Yes. So tell me all about it. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and honestly, to fill in like a little bit more about the online model for year 3, it ended up being every month. And that became, we thought that would make a little bit more approachable. So instead of having to wait to have a ton of submissions, month by month, we looked at every submission for that month, and they could have winners of the month. And that also became a lot of work. And being able to have to keep
that's
up
like a
with that.
full-time job,
And
man.
so year 4, we just are like in the start of year 4, which is really something to celebrate. We have now decided to adapt it into a seasonal festival that happens 4 times a year. So we are in the process of sort of a new frontier, because we got approached by a company called Filmocracy that literally is helping design a interactive virtual film festival experience. Like, everything you could expect to experience from a Sundance, you get to have at our festival online. So we get to build a virtual Hollywood Boulevard with buildings. We're going to be programming the films. We could do Q&As, panels.
Yes.
Filmmakers can actually be in Zoom conversations with each other. So the one thing that we were missing from year 3, which was only getting like certificates and laurels, the interaction and the networking.
Yeah.
And so now we get to have an entire virtual experience. The festival can essentially have 1,000 people on the site at once, and we're able to do presentation mode to have different conversations.
We're having different workshops, which we're curating right now, different classes, Q&As, conversations about topical, like topical things that are happening right now. So like, yeah.
So it's, and to be honest, we're like still learning. Like we just had a conversation with our partner yesterday to kind of explain a few things because it's so tech savvy. I mean, they're designing this virtual interface for us to jump in on. But it's going to be, I think, with COVID right now, it's going to be an ironclad thing that we're going to continue getting to grow this experience of what our name is about. And I think we failed to mention that the social justice themes from the very first year, we kept as sort of the focal point of like, we do want to support the underrepresented voice continually. And so social justice is very much at our heart and wanting to see stories that aren't necessarily the most opportunistic stories to be presented. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that have incredible stories that they don't think are worthy, but they are incredible stories that really like you connect with. So,
and also giving them the space. Giving them the space to talk and giving them the space to let other people understand their points of view. So I think it's that
idea that, you know, the more specific you are, the more specific the story, the more universal it really is. Yes, you know, everybody thinks that their family is different. Everybody thinks that their story is different. But really, there's elements to everybody's story. The human experience is so universal for all of us. But it's done in a different way, right? Like my experience as an American is not going to be the same as an Israeli, right? Or as an Afghanistan person. So that's so cool. And I also feel like you guys are so smart because yes, COVID is here, but even if it hadn't been here, and even if you chose to do this virtually and it was like a normal, like we were, you know, normal as usual, I still think this is smart. I still think this is a great idea because it's more universal. It allows people in other countries to still connect, but not have to spend the massive amounts of money, you know, to have, come over here. They can attend. You guys, like, there's it almost reminds me, and I know that this is really going to date me, like really date me, but I was alive before there was the internet. And I remember that the internet for me started, like there were these like things called bulletin board services, like BBSs, where you could like go and just chat with people. And it was really intimate and it was fun. And like, I like made a bunch of friends online before that was a thing, before there was like even really websites and stuff like that. And this feels like it's hearkening back to that a little bit, where people can connect and people like an Israeli filmmaker can connect with somebody in Ohio or, you know, Indiana or like LA, where they might not have done that because they couldn't have afforded to join and come out here for the thing, you know?
And I think we're going to say the same thing. So that was one of the biggest problems with year 2 is that we had films from all over the world. And for example, one of our favorite films was called Nosotros. And it was from Spain, and they couldn't afford the ticket to fly over to LA. You know what I mean?
Expensive, man.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
And some of the more established festivals can't afford to we were in year 2 and we were renting two theaters simultaneously for like 3 days, paying for programs, paying for all these expenses that we just were trying to like keep our head above the water. And so we didn't have the luxury of being able to fly them out.
But like in this situation, they could have totally participated, done a Q&A,
been there. And it's pretty exciting because the way it's set up is like they have all these little tables that they can have their own conversations with each other, and it's like this digital Zoom chat rooms that they each get to have. They can jump from table to table. They also can get feedback. I think the people that watch the films are given an opportunity to vote and rate things, so they get immediate responses. And there also is going to be the opportunity to have distribution platforms available to them. So Filmocracy itself is its own distribution platform, which means we guaranteed offer distribution with them. But we also are building partnerships to allow more opportunities for them to be supported as they are part of this festival.
Yeah, and also I would say the most important thing for us is the filmmakers. So we are not, you know, trying to have any buyback from them getting distribution. We're not getting a bounce back. There's nothing like that. There's nothing in it for us.
Yeah.
We're just trying to open doors for the filmmakers.
You know what's funny is that would never even occur to me. Is that something that happens?
Oh yeah.
With other larger festivals? Like they make money if you sell something while at their festival?
Yes. Yeah, especially if you're talking about some of the big, more established
You
festivals.
guys, I guess I just don't know enough about film festivals because I've never been to a big one, but that seems, I mean, I get it, like, but also
it's a way to make money off the front end and the back end, but like that's not our interest. We just want to see our filmmakers be successful. So you know, the thing, like the distribution on Filmocracy is not exclusive at all. So they could be on Filmocracy, but then they also have the freedom to decide where they want to go, what they want to do with their content, because ultimately it's their choice.
Yeah.
You know,
and what I love so much about this concept of doing this online is that, I mean, it's where the industry has been going and continues to go. All the streamers, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, all that, like, you know, Quibi, all that stuff, like, it just seems like this is such a natural fit. And wouldn't it be cool if, you know, the people who were getting into the festivals quarterly, like, got traction enough so that they could be featured on these streamers? Like, I think that's the goal. It sounds like, at least, that's your goal. As, you know, you guys just have such a good heart for the filmmakers and the creators. It's so good, you guys.
because and the thing is that, like, I think honestly it's about supporting their work and supporting their voice and to let them know. I mean, there's a lot of filmmakers that I'm aware of that just put up their film on Amazon for free and they're like, okay, I made something, but they like to value themselves. Like, it's hard as an actor sometimes to say, like, yes, I'm going to say I deserve to get paid because there's so many opportunities that are underpaying, especially right now. And I think it's okay to value to say that if you work hard and you raise $20,000 and you make a short film, that you should be able to make money off of your hard work and not just use it as a calling card, but also as an opportunity to profit from your hard work. And so there are so many more opportunities that we are now familiarizing ourselves with because we never really even had that, you know, on the brain when we were just an actor. And now that we're supporting these other filmmakers, making these connections, it's really exciting too, because I mean, our best dream is to get to, like, honor these incredible filmmakers and have them want to have other collaborations that come from the conversations that happen, and to continue building this community of artists that we'll continue to get to work with.
No, we fall in love with the filmmakers because we watch every single film. We watch everything, and so it's awesome when you meet a filmmaker and then you can tell them specifics about their film and they're shocked. They're like,
you watched it? I'm so flattered.
Like, of course
and
we did.
And it's and this is not an ageist comment at all, but the talent that is so young is like, you're literally like, this person's not even 21 and they made this incredible film, and you're just like, mind blowing. I was like, man, what was I doing at 21 at Ball State?
Because we didn't have this technology at 21, right? Like, that's the difference, really. They've grown up with that, so they've had these platforms, they've had this equipment in their hands forever. You know, okay, so Adam, you brought something up really great, and like, let's transition to it because I think this is what I think a lot of people are very curious to know about. Is I want to talk about what you guys have individually learned as actors who now produce. And then as people who are running a festival, you have seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of films and, you know, shorts and probably web series and stuff like that. Like, what works, what doesn't? Like, what can people do to stand out? What are the things that they do that are, like, actually shooting them in the foot, that kind of thing. So let's start with what you have learned as an actor, and then I will share what I learned producing a web series and directing that. And I bet you it's a lot of the same stuff. So what have you guys learned transitioning from being not just an actor, but also now an actor who runs shit?
Well, honestly, I think that the first obvious is that there's a lot of things that you do as an actor that's, you only think from yourself. You know, like, the world exists around you, and it's nothing to say that actors can't be more than this, but I think you only think about your lines, your part, you're going back to holding, like, your time is being wasted. It's always about the you. And I think the biggest lesson we learn when you come to the other side is how much work it takes to even get to shooting. Right. How much work to get to the versions of the scripts that are ready to finally actually bring in people to do a table read, to finally get the funds you need. And so there's so many other moving parts that kind of come around to it that I think it made me be a much better actor to work with, because I was just like, whatever serves the project, whatever you need, I understand this is like a huge thing that is happening right now. And I think the respect of every job, every position, every boom mic crew, anybody, like, it's a lot of work. And I think we had to learn all of those skill sets. We didn't really get trained to do it. We just did it by fire, where it's like,
that's exactly right. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. Like, that's the thing, going back to the, give you, like, here's your permission. If you're watching this, if you're thinking about making something, just go and make it. Don't worry about whether you have training in it or not, because you can still get trained in school or like a program, but until you actually start to do it, you're not actually learning anything. You know what I mean?
That's absolutely correct.
Right?
Yeah. You can read books, but if you're not implementing what you're learning, then there's no point. You have to be corrected. You have to make mistakes.
Yeah, experience is the best teacher. And I honestly think, like, the first thing you produce maybe isn't going to be the most amazing thing ever.
And also,
but you learn about 25,000 lessons.
Right. Right? Like,
exactly.
You don't have to show anybody if you don't want to.
I would say, as an actor, be on top of your shit. Like, come on, like, show up, know your lines, be respectful, be kind to everybody. Because people
be grateful.
Like, be grateful, because also people on the set are looking to you, you know what I mean? Looking as an actor. And maybe it's because I still am very much in the game of being an actor and a performer while producing. And so sometimes, I have to be honest, I love producing. I think it's amazing. I'm grateful to know that skill set to be able to create my own content and promote my own career. But I will say that it made me so grateful when I get to just be an actor. It's so exciting, because I know how much work goes into it. And then I can just show up and be that ambassador, be that friendly face, be that person who's on the mark and doing the job, so I think both ways. I still think in both ways.
If you think about the producing skill set of, like, if you're like a CrossFitter and you're carrying weights, like the amount of weights you wear when you're wearing all those different hats of being producer, being first on set, that you also might be script supervisor, you might be directing, you also might be acting. You're like carrying all these things that you end up doing. And so when you just get to act, you just feel lighter. You feel lighter. It's like Biggest Loser. It's like, okay, great. I'm just going to focus on the incredible task it is to tell the story, but, like, I don't have any other responsibilities. And to be honest, that's not always the case. Now everyone's becoming a hyphenated actor, and that we encourage that. In fact, we're actually going to build a class about that, because I think it's important to kind of embrace this new frontier. I mean, there's a lot of great examples we've seen, from Issa Rae to Phoebe Waller-Bridge, etc., of people that have written their own incredible story and made it really successfully. But I would say that I think the biggest lesson to take away is just to have a greater scope of things outside of yourself and to have an appreciation for every step of the way to get there.
I also think there's nothing more fun than being the boss. So like, when you're the producer and you're in charge, it's also rewarding, though. You know what I mean? Like, you're doing all that hard work, you're waking up early, you're taking care of everybody, you're, making sure every I is dotted and every T is crossed. Like, you're taking care of everything, but at the end of the day, you did that. And that feels so good. I think there's a lot to be proud of, you know?
Yeah. So. When I learned, all of the lessons you guys just talked about is what I learned when I produced, a web series. It's like the amount of time it took to get to a place where we were at production. I mean, it was a year. Like, it was a year.
Yes.
Like, it wasn't because also when you're producing your own content, you're also balancing your actual career and the things that you're doing with the thing that you're trying to make. So it's not like I could have spent 3 months hardcore getting paid to produce it. So I had, that's why it took so long. But it was still a lot of time. Yeah. And then I learned that honestly, what an actor's job is to come in and kill it on take one.
Exactly.
Kill it on take one.
That's a t-shirt that we need to make. I will wear that.
Kill it on take one. because there is so much, there's so much work that's gone into it, and also time really actually is money on a set.
Yes, it is.
When you're trying to get things done in a time frame, and like I'm talking from tiny productions on up to the big dogs. Not only do you need to come in and kill it on take one, but you also just need to bring the fullness of what you as the artist have created.
Yes.
You know, and it's not just like, like actors are not just a vessel for the director. I mean, I used to think that, and now I'm like, they are, but they also need to bring their own flavor. That's why you got hired.
Yes,
to do that, right? But yeah, like just I think if you're an actor who has never made anything, you don't get a sense really of how much work everything has taken to get to the place where you're actually on set. And that includes, by the way, all the demo reel scenes that we make, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not just like, you know, actual production stuff. Like this goes down to, you know, smaller stuff like what we do.
I mean, as a writer, I have so much respect for how much content you churn out, because I think it's especially in I think every writer will know, staring at that cursor and like being in that moment of like, all right, like you kind of hit that stuck moment and you're just like, oh, like I know the story, but I can't pull it out. It's like so tedious. And then all of a sudden you're like in the flow and it happens. But just to have written as much as you have for those scenes, and then you produce them so beautifully and they're executed amazingly.
Well, I have a really good team, right? Like it's not just me. It used to be just me. Now I have a couple of other writers who work. So it's like the three or four of us who do it. And we also do a bunch of work. I have found that, and this is, I think, a good piece of advice for people who are interested in creating their own stuff, is that it's all about, for us with RYR, it's like we put a lot of time into creating the ideas in the first place. Mm-hmm. It's not even just like, let's sit down and write a script. It's, I brainstorm with the actor, and then we kind of flush out an idea and they get to choose what they like. And then I give that idea to the writer. So the writer's not just like getting nothing, right? They do get like a whole paragraph flushed out, like this is the storyline and this is what's happening and these are the 4 beats that you're doing. So, but yes, it is a lot. It's a lot of content. And we're also doing it in different genres, right? So like every time we're producing something different, it's like a different show. Okay, so you guys have watched hundreds and hundreds of films. Mm-hmm. You have seen, I feel like, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know, so can you walk us through sort of what people are doing right and what they are like could maybe improve upon to help their chances? You know, like you said earlier, you've learned what people have done right and what people have done wrong. And I'm curious what those things are, because I've only ever submitted, and I've been a kind of not a judge, but like a judge on another film festival from Virginia, and I got to give notes and stuff. And I saw kind of what I thought people were doing right and wrong, but you guys have way more experience. So kind of walk us through that.
I mean, the first preface I want to make is that you have to remember that when you submit a film to a festival, that even if you don't get in, it's not necessarily a comment on how great your film is. Because you have to think of us as like, I give the metaphor that we're almost like museum curators, and we're trying to curate something for that, because we do ours seasonally. We have specific things that we're starting to piece together for our programming, and that not always it's a testament to like how great the film is, because we have social justice sort of as the lens that we look through, that not everything that's well produced in a great film belongs necessarily in our programming at that time.
Okay, this is, I think, a really important point. So it sounds like when you're about to submit your stuff for a film festival, make sure that the festival is like, how do I put it? The kind of festival that you, like your niche. Yeah, like it has the niche that you are. So for example, people who do horror films probably aren't doing your festival unless that horror film is like a, you know, a social justice horror film.
Yeah, Me Too, or any, there's also twists. Okay,
cool.
So that was just the preface, but I would say, I mean, Monica and I were just talking about this. Sound is so important.
So important. Oh my gosh. Well, she said what you're doing right, what they're doing right.
What they're doing right.
Right. So, okay, we can start what they're doing wrong and then go to like what they're doing right.
Okay. Let's do what they're doing right. I think when you see a film that is heartfelt and real and hits you in a different way, something that's outside of the box, I think those are the films that sit with me the most, at least, something that I have an emotional connection to. Mm-hmm. If I'm rooting for the hero, like, you know what I mean? And I feel connected to your characters and your story. Those are the films that I want to see go through, and those are the films I fight for. Because sometimes, especially with our judging panel, things have become a fight. Like, people will argue as to why a film should be in over another film. So we like, you know, we're attached to these stories, and, you know, we get excited about the filmmakers after we've seen their content, you know? Yeah, they stay with us. So those are the things that is something that they're doing right. If the story's good, we love it.
Do you feel like with the talking about story, do you find that somebody who has kind of a really strong sense of like structure that helps with story? Because I noticed when I judged the one thing I did, the films that I thought did really well were executed beautifully, like they looked good, but more importantly, they had a structure. And then the films that didn't really seem to follow that, it's not that you can't bend structure, but I feel like especially if you're a new content creator, structure can be kind of important, right? Because it helps tell that story in a way that we can receive it. When you start to just like fling that aside and you don't spend a lot of time with character development, or you don't have a character that you've developed so that we are connecting with that character, then that's when we're like disassociating ourselves with it and we're not able to connect with that. Would you say that that's fair?
I would say that like all films, I think it always starts with a good script, a good story, and you want to tell the story succinctly, because you need to have arcs and all these components, the fundamentals of characters that have maybe tragic flaws, but you're still rooting for. They want to be likable. They want to be going after something. And it depends on what you're talking about, because with short films, we want to see it as tightly reduced as possible, because some shorts are 5 minutes, some are 25. But in that time frame, does it keep your attention? Are you rooting for what's happening in the story? And I think structurally speaking, I think it's important to kind of like make sure the story is clear. I'm totally open to non-traditional structure. I think it's really cool to think outside the box. Like, I love Christopher Nolan, and so there's a lot of different director influences that if they surprise us, that's always also a good thing. I think sometimes we're just like, oh, I wasn't expecting that, because if you watch so many films back to back, sometimes you get really good at guessing what's going to happen. And I think I think we're all like, all right, we know what's going to happen. But at the same time, if they like throw us for a loop and it was a twist and a turn you weren't expecting, that's always amazing, because it's just, you know, you think that you know what's going to happen, and it keeps us on our toes. And that's always and even almost like less is more, when they leave you wanting to see what happens next, and you're like, oh, like I want to see this as a feature because you just told this incredible story, and I feel like I want to know what happens next.
Specifically speaking about short films.
Short films, yeah.
And also, let's talk about timing in short films. Please, the best time for short film is 6 to 10 minutes. Do not give us a film that's 40 minutes and call it a short. Like, come on. Just do the extra work and make it a feature, or cut it down and cut some stuff out and make it a short. 40 minutes. I mean, come on, because we watch everything. But sometimes storylines just go on, and we're like, that could have ended like 20 minutes.
And you're like, suddenly, is this waiting for Godot? I mean, come on.
Exactly.
And that's also an example of where it puts us in a difficult position for programming. So if we're programming a block of short films, and we have 3 films that are between 5 to 10 minutes, and then there's a 40-minute film, it just feels completely imbalanced to the block of the other films. And that's where, if you're in between those boxes of programming feature films or shorts, and you're kind of in between, it makes us feel like we're in between our decision. So I think
it sounds like they need to really follow instructions when it says your stuff needs to be this length or shorter. And no longer, like not even 5 seconds longer, then that's why. Because you are, like, you guys as the curators are programming blocks of things that go together, so that when people attend to watch those things, there's not some wild thing that is like out of the box there. Okay, that makes sense. Awesome.
And we try, like, we've like been creative. We put like a little micro short before a feature film, almost like Pixar does a short film before the feature. We found ways of being as inclusive as possible if the film is worth it.
So that's great, especially like if you're a content creator and you want to make a micro short film, you know what I mean? Something that's 2-3 minutes. Maybe it doesn't have dialogue. Maybe you're just making a point, or you're doing it to music or whatever. those are great because those can go exactly right before another short or before a feature film.
I mean, and we
That's
accept trailers, we accept music videos. We have things that are a little bit non-traditional. So I think it's important to really, yes, that's your advice about finding a festival that will resonate with your content is a really great starting point. And it can be so expensive when you look at all the submissions. So that's important to use film freeways. Like, you know, you can browse the site quite easily, and it helps you find festivals that you start to submit to. It might refer you to a couple others that are very similar in their mindset or their mission. But yeah, that's the biggest thing, is I think really just telling the story as clearly as possible. And also we love to support the underrepresented voice. So we want to hear, like, make it be as unique as you are. If you're the filmmaker and you're wanting to tell your story, or you wrote this opportunity for yourself, go with all the quirks that you have and make it personal, so it doesn't feel so cookie cutter or like something that's already been done before, you know?
Yeah.
So what do people do wrong?
Yeah, don't continue to tell the same story, you know? So I think one of the films that we just saw, I don't want to say what name it is, I fell in love with it, but it was of a character who was very magical and ethereal, and it was like a BIPOC, Black Indigenous person of color, but I don't often see Black people in those roles, to be honest. You know what I mean? And it was such beautiful content. It was so it was poetic. It was outside of the box. I don't see those characters, and I fell in love with that. I was like, yes, this is it. You know, it was very much in the realm of Grand Budapest Hotel, you know, that kind of
it was whimsical, and it surprised us.
It was so surprising. I was not expecting to see that story, and it was just, it was magical. So it's like, that's
we
the
both
stuff
watched
we're
that
looking
this
for.
week, and we're like still thinking about it. So it's like, you know, that there are ways of kind of keeping you still thinking. Whenever that happens, when you're watching a lot of content and you're still going back to the previous ones, you know that that's a great film.
Right.
And there's a lot of great films that we want to support. We're looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah. Ooh, okay. So the things that people can do right, sound you listed as one of them. Absolutely. Sound is so important. What else? Is there anything that you're seeing in the submissions that you've had in the past where you're like, this could have gone better if they did this? Is it about, is it just about like technical stuff? Is it about story? Is it about all of those things combined?
Well, I think the best package you could present, given your budget, you know, like not everyone has like hundreds of thousands of dollars to make their films, and so that is totally fine. But the thing you can control is the preparation, so the scenes are like on their game and the direction is really great. And even if you're using, I mean, nowadays with how great the iPhone is, like there's no excuse not to have great footage. And so it's like the basics, when they come together, it soars. When it doesn't, it's just the first thing we notice. You know, it's like when an actor comes into an audition and like maybe they're like shoes untied or something, and they always say like, it's so frustrating that they just gave a beautiful scene or song to audition with, but the casting director just kept staring at the thing that's drawing their attention. Right. So if you make sure you prepare the best film version of your film that you can submit, and when it comes together beautifully. And I think if it resonates, it's going to get in. If it doesn't, it's not a personal reflection on how bad it is. Like, you know,
and I would say, right according to your budget, you know, don't overshoot yourself by trying to make an action film when you can afford a film that really is just about two characters, you know? I would say we had a film last year that we both loved the story, but literally could not use it because the sound was so bad. It was so like, and I don't mean to be like horrible, but like if they, you know, and here's the other thing, some people lack the resources, you know,
this is where I think network comes into play, right? Like as you as a filmmaker are, you know, building your materials, you're building your body of work, and you're connecting with other people, you guys can pool resources. There's also really good, if you guys are watching this now or later, and you're interested in starting to do some stuff, like there's a great website called sharegrid.com where you can rent equipment from other filmmakers for really cheap. There's also other places you can rent online, you know, like Lens Pro to Go and stuff like that, where there's that you don't have to buy the stuff. You can just rent it for the weekend that you're going to shoot, and it'll make your production value go so much higher. You know, but I agree with you. Write to what you have and write to what you know. That's what we do with Rocker Reel. Like, we're not trying to make, like, you know, giant ass, like, special effects stuff. We're, you know, we write to what we know we have available to us, and that's why it's successful. So if we can do it, you can do it.
There's something in the phrase "keep it simple," you know, like simplicity, and just make sure that everything's on point. You know, because, and it was sad to me. It really made me sad because I did love that story, but I can't fix the sound on our end. It's, at that point, it's too late, you know?
So we have about 6 minutes or so left. What advice, if somebody were watching this and they're like, you know what, I am so inspired. I just looked at a comment card that we got, and there's a younger girl, like I think she's 10 or 11, and she's like, this is so inspiring. Yay. So let's say, I know, right? So let's say that you're talking with a fresh filmmaker, maybe a young person, or maybe like somebody who's older, who's never thought about making their own content and now they want to. What would be the advice that you guys would give them for like going from zero to wanting to make something that they could potentially even, you know, submit to festivals?
Yeah.
Honestly, one of the things I had to learn is that it's okay to ask for help. I think what's really blown my mind about moving to LA from New York and starting to get into this is how much people are willing to lend themselves and give back and for mentorship. So you can always start with, you know, whatever. It's never too late. Of course, that's the bare minimum. Please make your content, and like the world needs that. We want to hear your story. What isn't being represented on screen? If you don't see it, literally like make it happen. But once you have a good script and you need to make it happen, you can start even just on Facebook. There's groups to reach out, and I guarantee you're going to find people that are going to want to be able to meet with you and help advise you on the step of the way. And so you don't have, because
everybody here is so hungry, right? Like, we're all so hungry. We moved here specifically for this purpose, right?
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like if we could do this in any other city, we would probably be in any other city because it's cheaper, right? So like, we are hungry. We want to, like, the community is there. It sounds like you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think that to lend on your community, you know, what ends up happening sometimes is you find your tribe of people that you like to work with regularly, and you show up for their project, they show up for you, and it just makes you feel like you're not alone in this. And I think that's important to remember, is that, you know, you may feel like you have this great idea, but you don't know how to make it happen. But as soon as you start reaching out, that's when you know, it takes how many people to make a film come together? It takes like a village. So you really have to start making it outside of yourself. Even if you want to be directing it, like, you still should probably start to be willing to reach out and share your story. Doing a reading is a really starting point, because I think sometimes people think that it's, you know, not resonating, or they can work on, as a writer, you can be at, you know, picking at it forever. But until you hear feedback and hearing it out loud by actors reading it, I think you really don't know if it's sailing or ready yet.
Yeah.
And that's a really good step that you should definitely plan on in sharing your work.
Yeah, I would say write something from your experience. Write something that's close to your heart and a story that you want to tell, because I think that will keep you motivated in everything else you have to do in order to make it happen. I would definitely, I think asking for help is great advice, and getting help from people who have resources. You know, if you don't have a lot of money to put into your film, maybe you can, you know, bring on a DP with their own camera. You know, you can ask for help, or you can ask for help. You can ask for donations
or bartering too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's super important as well. Yeah.
I would also say, you know, because you guys both brought up the writing, for somebody, if there might be somebody out there who's like, I want to make a thing, but I've literally never written before. I don't know how to do that. Guess what? You are in a town full of writers. And by the way, I don't just mean LA. I mean, whatever town you're in is full of people who want to write. You can pair yourself, you can talk with them, and they can help you write the script, or you guys can pair together. Like, it's not, again, it's about creating that community and taking these two's advice where you're asking for help. That is so important.
Yeah.
Because nobody creates something in a vacuum.
I would say also collaborate with people who also have your same vision, you know, who are going to say yes and help you and also guide you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, there's a lot of resources that are available to you. So one of the things we wanted to talk about today is we're starting a brand new podcast, which is called Points of View, which you yourself are going to get to be our guest down the line.
So
but
excited.
there are all sorts of podcasts that have conversations with filmmakers about their tips, their journeys, and it's just there. You literally could be down the rabbit hole of wealth of information by just doing a little bit of research. And I think that's something I encourage. But the podcast we're about to do is like conversing with filmmakers about their lessons that they learned along the journey. So it's literally something I would recommend following because it's going to totally talk about some incredible tips that you can learn.
I am so excited for you guys.
Continue studying, you know, it's not brain surgery. We're making films.
Right. We're making films.
Should be, it should be fun. It should be collaborative, you know.
That's so funny. All right, so if people, I know we've got the websites pinned down here, but if people want to connect with you, if they want to chat with you, how can they find you? What's like the best place for them to reach out?
Personally, Instagram is great. I respond to every single one of my messages and I follow people who follow me back. So that's at Monica P. Quinn.
Nice.
Yes, or we're on Moving Parts Festival. So if you follow us on that, we both have access to communicate with you through there.
Which is what this is on right now. So it's easily.
Yeah. And then I'm also at Fried LA and I'm the same. I would love to be able to connect with you that way. And then of course we have, info@chrysalispicturesproductions.com is our major email address that we use for the company to talk about all things that are happening.
Cool. And then they can find, go ahead.
Yeah, we wanted to ask earlier, we were talking about anyone who wanted to reach out to us.
Oh yes.
About
so we are actually in the process of building out the panels that are going to be our so to give some important dates, our deadline is August 22nd for this submission for this round for the fall. So if you are a filmmaker looking to submit your film, we would love to see your work
via Film Freeway.
Via Film Freeway. Our actual festival dates are going to be September 26th and 27th, and so we were wanting to say if anybody is looking for something specific to learn about. Is there a subject you want to know? Is there a panel or something you want to learn about? Please reach out to us through Instagram because we're in the process of curating these panels and reaching out to these professionals to start asking and inviting them to come. And we'd love to make panels that are geared towards what you were interested in learning about.
Absolutely.
Cool. Maybe we'll put a poll up on our stories to send them over to you guys because we have about 30 seconds left and I don't want to get cut off like I did last time.
Oh, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you guys so much for coming on here. I really hope that people watch this replay because I think there's so much good information and they can really learn about you guys. So for those of you guys who are watching, we got about 16 seconds. If you guys have stuff that you want to submit to their festival, they're on filmfreeway.com or you can go to one of these two websites on the bottom and you'll find links to all that stuff. Thank you guys so much. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
I love working with you. Talk to you later.